How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Long time, or at least a couple of weeks.
It's felt like a long time. The time
Yeah,
has flown. I can't believe it's September already.
I know, September of 21. We started talking in like April of 2020.
We've
Anyways,
been friends for a long time.
we have to, ever
We're
since
old pals now.
we are. We talk every week.
We
Um,
do.
a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Let me just turn off my volume here so you don't hear any beep. Okay, with the new vaccination passport that's taken into effect September 22nd, what are the business saying to you?
Well, the businesses have asked for this through the Chamber of Commerce. Certainly, individual businesses that I talk to on a regular basis here in Burlington, they were looking for it because they wanted consistency
Sure.
across the industry, across the province, so that no one business who felt that this was an important measure would be targeted. And we did see that happening in places all around us. That so they were saying, look, let's have one standard, same for reopening, same for all the other policies. It is better to have one consistent standard so that individual businesses don't take it on the chin and have to fight those battles, right? Hire a lawyer, fight a battle if somebody challenges it. You know, they got to run their business. We got to let them take the time to run their business. So I'm glad that finally the province did step up and initiate that, because we certainly were going to look into that ourselves, and of course had already gone down a path of looking into it for our own staff. So before the province made their announcement, so I think it became clear that that others were going to do this anyway, and it would be really great if there was one standard from the province.
Awesome. And now, who's going to police this at restaurants and venues and stuff like that? One of the things we talked to a lot of restaurants in Sauga and Halton, and they're all like, "Are we supposed to hire a bouncer now?" I'm like, I don't know. So who's policing this, and who's policing, the restaurants to make sure they're abiding by it?
Well, I'm going to assume that 98% of people will voluntarily follow the law and do the right thing.
Yeah,
I'm going to assume that and appeal to people's goodwill to understand that this is what it means to live in community. We take steps to protect ourselves, but also to protect those around us, including staff who are serving in a restaurant, including people that might be at the other table in a restaurant, or our neighbors and friends and family. Sorry, just lost me there.
totally.
I'm going to assume that everyone is on that same page. And for the few that may object, then don't go.
Okay.
There's options,
Yep.
curbside or takeout or home delivery. There's other ways to get your services that have evolved over the course of this pandemic for a number of months. So there's lots of options if you do not wish to be vaccinated. But you're not, you don't have the right to put other people at risk or compromise the business trying to keep their staff and their patrons safe. So, and I will add, if anyone questions the value and the effectiveness of vaccines, please go to the COVID-19 science table for their data. Saw a chart today from them showing how many people are in hospital with COVID who are unvaccinated and how many who are double vaxxed or single vaxxed. The overwhelming majority of people in hospital are not vaxxed. So
Yep.
do this for yourself. This is an unnecessary hospital visit. So do this for yourself, do this for healthcare capacity, because we know, we've talked about this before, if health capacity reaches peak, that's when the economy starts shutting down. We have to roll back to stop the new infections and the severity of those infections to protect hospital capacity for all the reasons why people go to the hospital. And it's well more than just COVID. So we can't have all the capacity at hospital taken up by COVID patients when there's no need for it. And the vaccine will not prevent you from getting or spreading, but it will prevent you from the most serious symptoms and likely spare you a hospital visit. That's
Sure.
really important. So, so do the right thing. And we've wandered a little from your
You know,
question, which
no, it's a message. We have to
I'm
keep on.
I'm
Get back.
I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
This needs to be conveyed every day, regularly, multiple times a day, because some still are not getting the message. But I'm hopeful that people will get the message and do the right thing. In terms of enforcement, we have been advised that bylaw is the ultimate enforcement, and I'm hoping we won't need enforcement.
Okay.
I'm
So by
hoping,
oh,
but
sorry.
it is bylaw that would be empowered, and that was something again gifted to us by the province.
Yeah.
They set policies, which is great, but then we have to pick up the tab for
Yeah.
the
Okay.
enforcement at a time when our bylaw officers are already stretched with a whole host of COVID and other issues as well. So,
Yeah.
so do the right thing.
Awesome. And I hate to bring this up, John Tory, Doug Ford, Fred Eisenberger, they've faced protests at their house. Now you have.
I sure have.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this? I think it's awful. Obviously doing it at your personal residence. What are your thoughts?
Ineffective, inappropriate.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the policies the city has set, you absolutely have a right to protest and demonstrate and communicate that you don't agree with those. And the place to do that is my place of work, which is City Hall.
Okay.
And we have had many demonstrations, many protests. In fact, there was a climate demonstration, might be going on right now outside of City Hall. So that's welcome. If your message is about policies that you either support or disagree with, then go to the seat of the policy makers. And in Burlington, that is City Hall. For provincial policies, that is Queen's Park, and for federal policies, that is Parliament Hill. This does not belong at anybody's personal, private residence. My family didn't run to be mayor. they're in it with me, but they don't deserve this. My neighbors didn't run to be mayor. They don't make those decisions. They don't deserve to be harassed, which they were when folks came to my street. And so don't do it. There's 100 ways to get a hold of me, really. I'm very reachable, very accessible. Here we are talking live on Instagram, as we've done almost every week throughout the pandemic. mayor@burlington.ca. Very simple. You've all, obviously, if you're watching, have my Instagram handle. You can message me, you can email me, you can call, you can put a message on social media. There are many ways to convey your views, and showing up at anyone's private residence, any elected official, any community leader who is in the crosshairs of this pandemic. It's completely inappropriate. And finally, I will say I am most appalled and have to condemn in the strongest possible terms the demonstrations and protests that we've seen outside hospitals, and some of the abuse and harassment that I have been told has happened here in Burlington, as well as throughout the province and country, that our doctors, our frontline workers have been subjected to. So if your issue is with healthcare policy, doctors and nurses aren't making healthcare policy. They're not making those decisions. And certainly at Joseph Brant Hospital, they're caring for sick people. They're caring for sick and dying people, including your family and your friends and your neighbors. Let them do their job, and let them do their job not only in peace, but with a little bit of support. If you want to show up at the hospital, send some love to our frontline workers. Tell them that you appreciate everything that they have and are and continue to do throughout this pandemic, above and beyond, from day one, putting their own health at risk to keep us healthy and safe. So keep it away from hospitals, and most certainly keep it away from private residents. But I'm more incensed about what's happening outside hospitals right now.
Sorry, and this is happening outside Joe Brant right now, or has happened?
It happened last week, and we're aware that there are plans for another one coming up. And so my advice, I did issue a statement earlier today, which the public, it is on my Instagram page, so you can see it there. Come to City Hall.
Yeah.
If your concern is about policies, legislation, especially related to masks, take it to the decision makers.
True.
Take it to the decision makers. The buck stops with us. We in public office have made those decisions. If you don't like it, the buck stops with us. Take it to City Hall. Take it to Queen's Park. Take it to Parliament Hill.
Yeah. These anti-vaxxers have been the worst. So I'm just going to say that. Mississauga, Dr. Lowe recommended that the masking bylaw be extended to March 31st of 2021. Is Halton Public Health going to recommend extending the mask bylaw?
You mean 2022?
2022, sorry, 2022, yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of we're ahead of the curve on this. Last year, we said we're going to need to extend our city bylaw to the end of 2021, and we took some flack for that.
Yeah.
I personally took some flack for that, but I knew that even with vaccines, it would take some time for people to be vaccinated. And until we got a handle, until we really kicked this virus to the curb, there is a need for other public health measures. And we knew that, we were hearing that from the chair of the vaccine task force, early January of this year. And so as a council, we extended our mask bylaw to the end of December, and regional council shortly after extended to the end of December. So we've got a little bit of time to think about whether to extend it. Absolutely, if we need to, we will do that. And, up until December 31st, we have the option to extend that.
Okay. Third doses of the vaccine are going to be made available to the most vulnerable. Is there a plan to push it out to kind of the larger population?
I think, we're still waiting on that from public health in terms of what their advice is. And, the supply doesn't seem to be an issue at this point. So the decision will be made on, does everybody need the third dose? And if so, then, we're going to make it happen.
Cool. 2 weeks, was it? A little bit, yeah. 2 weeks left until the election date. Have you sat down with any of the leaders to talk about, issues for Burlington and what you want?
None of the leaders have come to Burlington.
Those guys.
So no, but we do advocacy regularly, and typically when there's a campaign and this was a fairly quick call election, called during the summer when many people were away, and we have an extraordinarily heavy legislative agenda here in the city of Burlington. And so my goal in every election has been to meet with every candidate. And so it's just about, to talk about the important things to Burlington. But we do sign on to Halton Region and to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which advocates on the big items that affect us here in Burlington, which are transit, affordable housing, infrastructure funding, community, predictable community funding. Municipalities get 9 cents on the dollar of all taxes raised, and yet we do 90% of the direct frontline service for residents. And so we need, instead of always having to come cap in hand and sell a project on its merits, it is much better to have predictable funding, especially for those large multi-year projects where you can start to plan and the funding is going to be there. So yeah, okay. That's a huge part of our advocacy locally, but also with the candidates.
I'm calling the press secretaries of each major candidate every single day and saying, let's get on. So
there you go.
Let's hope they come on before the election date's over. What's one, if I do get Trudeau, O'Toole, or Jagmeet, what's one thing you want me to ask them for Burlington?
I want you to ask about predictable, stable infrastructure funding.
Okay, got it. I will ask that.
Not application based, but based really on what we call allocation by population. So you would know every year you're entitled as a city to get X number of dollars based on your population. That's fair, that's transparent, and it's predictable.
Okay, awesome. If I get them, I'll cut that clip and I'll send it over to him. So, so they know
Awesome.
exactly. Okay.
I also want to know, I'll put in two for one here.
Okay, okay, there you go.
I also want to know if they will support us in our quest for approval of a charter with the province. So what that means is you can have a single charter amendment that does not require any other province to sign on. Quebec has done it, Newfoundland has done it. It is a possible and feasible thing. And what that would do is we would go to the province and say, look, these are the powers that we want you to give us. We're a grown-up city now. We don't need somebody looking over and checking our work on planning. We can take care of that. So let us out from under the yoke of the Ontario Lands Tribunal. We can set our own election policy around funding and third party and whether we want to do first past the post or whether we want to try a new system. We can figure that out. Size of council, we've got that covered. We're a grown-up municipality. Those are two of the biggest issues that we would like to have more say over. And one of the tools is you strike a voluntary charter with the province, and the federal government approves it. And the value of the federal government being at the table is that a province or a new government can't just tear up the deal, right? There's another level so you have more predictability and stability in terms of any agreement that you've come up with. And we have a form of that already in Ontario, the City of Toronto Act. So I used to say Burlington needs our own City of Burlington Act with the province, and the Toronto has more powers than any other municipality in the city already, in the province already, because of the City of Toronto Act. But as we saw, the province can set that aside any day of the week, and did so in the middle of an election when they reduced the size of council. So I am looking for a commitment from all parties that should we be able to successfully negotiate with the provincial government a charter for Burlington, we want them to sign off on it.
Okay, awesome. That's a long question, but I will ask that.
I actually did have myself and others had an audience with Prime Minister Trudeau, I'm going to say about a month and a half ago.
Okay.
And yes, it was organized by the local MPs, and we had an opportunity to ask questions. So I did put that question to him. And so long as it doesn't require reopening the charter for the whole country,
yeah,
which it doesn't, you can do, as I said, single province amendments.
What did he say?
He said he would support it.
Oh, okay.
So, bring me a deal. So that's good. And I just haven't had an opportunity to put it to the other two. But there's been a lot of discussion about this. Not just in Ontario, but across the country, that there are, municipalities are our own level of government and need to be treated as such. But through legislation, we are, creatures of the province, and the province kind of is our, mom and dad, and tell us what we can and can't do. And that those days are over. Municipalities, especially the larger municipalities that are there, we're a fully functioning, mature level of government, directly accountable to our residents. And if they don't like what they do, they will tell us and they will unelect us.
Okay. If I might get all three, I might get none. So if I do get all three, I will ask that. So kids are back at school this week. Do you think the schools will close again, or do you think it'll be more kind of regional?
Well, I'm optimistic that people will do the right thing, and honestly, this is another reason why people need to be vaccinated, because there are people who can't be vaccinated, and that's people under 12. So you can get and spread this to them, and if you're vaccinated, your infectious period and the severity of your symptoms are less. So you're less infectious to those around you. So it's another reason why people should go, to one of the walk-in clinics, go to a pharmacy. There is lots of availability. You just walk in and do it. Okay. So that's what will keep our schools open. It's what will keep our businesses and our economy open. So there's dozens of reasons why it's the right thing to do. The health reasons are top, of course, but there's all these other reasons why it's the right thing to do. Protect people who can't get it, and people who are immunocompromised, so can't get it. Do your part and get vaccinated. It's something that we do for the businesses in our community. We do it for the schools and the children and the people who can't be vaccinated. We do it because we care about others in our community, and we care about living together in a community. And that's what it means, is that we do the right thing for each other.
True. The process to rename Ryerson Public School is now underway. What's the process in coming up with the new name?
So the first thing is to let folks know, especially in the immediate vicinity of the park. We've let people know via other means, but they will get a specialized postcard saying, look, we're renaming a park in your area, and a little bit about why. And we invite you to participate in the process, and you can suggest names. And then there will be a formal process and there's a survey that is online where people can suggest names. Any suggestion we will receive. I am partial to this being an Indigenous name, with some meaning to Indigenous residents in our community. So I'm hoping that we'll have a good selection of Indigenous names to choose from. I think that would be extremely helpful. And of course, it would resonate with why we chose to go down this path of renaming in the first place, because after the discoveries of the mass graves at residential schools across this country, where children were forcibly removed from their homes and stripped of their culture and punished if they practiced their culture or spoken their own language, where siblings were separated from each other even if they were at the same institution, traumatized, abused an entire generation, and the impacts of that are a lasting legacy. And the architect of that system and the defender and supporter of that system was Egerton Ryerson, after whom the park and the adjacent school was named. And so it's time to put some words into action on reconciliation with Indigenous residents in our city and in our province and country. And this was one step to do that. So I think having an Indigenous name for this park would be extremely well received. So get your ideas, send them in. So once there is a good list of names, there will be a small group which includes our Inclusivity Advisory Committee. It includes our a representative from City Council, that's Shauna Stolte, whose ward the park is in. It includes Indigenous residents here in Burlington and others. They will vet that list and come up with a short list, and then we'll put that back out to the public, and they will vote on their top choices. And then we're looking by November to have this wrapped up with a recommendation and a decision for council to make.
Awesome. Monday night, I was at Burlington Spencer Smith Park, just roaming the last day of summer, or so-called last day of summer. Went to Pepperwood, and anyways, and I saw your name on the plaque for the Brand Street Pier. I was like, I read all plaques. What's so funny?
You're like me. I read every plaque. Oh, there's a whole story behind that plaque, but go carry on.
No, okay, you got to tell the story now. Please tell us the story about the plaque.
Well, it's ironic, shall we say, because I've been a journalist before I was in elected office, and followed city politics for many years before being elected. And of course, right before I was elected, the Pier completion was one of the biggest issues that we were facing in the city. The discussions went sideways with the contractor. There was a big legal schmozzle. Everything got put on hold for a couple of years. I looked into that and got very involved in the discussions, and showed up at city council and had surveys and petitions on the pier. And at the end of the day, found that the contractor Skilltheis and Sons, as it turned out, was reputable and was not being treated fairly. In my mind, was being really thrown under the bus and, being blamed for all things that went wrong when really there were some challenges with the engineering designs. Fast forward a number of years, I'm now elected, sitting on city council, and the decision was made to end ties with the contractor. I didn't support that. Pick a new contractor and make changes to the design, the ones that the contractor had suggested in the first place. And then there were, all the lawsuits were settled, and the contractor, the original contractor, got a settlement. The city got a settlement from the design engineer. So it was a whole lesson in how not to burn bridges with people. And but there were times during that process where, and the cost went from 6.9 million to roughly 16 million when you added in all the extra costs and legal fees, and we got about $1 million back on the settlement from the design engineer, as did the contractor, the original contractor at the time. So, but there were times during that discussion when we were all thinking, 16 million is a lot of money for a pier. Yeah. So then, because the policy basically is whenever something is completed, whoever started it or voted for it or didn't vote for it, doesn't matter. If you are in office when something is being completed, your name goes on the plaque.
Oh.
So my family gets quite a kick out of the fact that my name is on the Pier plaque, given the battle that was, and the fact that I had a very different perspective than my colleagues. It was a lot of 6-1 votes in those days. Very different perspective from them, but the community tended to share my views that the contractor was being mistreated throughout this, and history judged that to be true, and they got a settlement in the end. And in fact, about a year later, quietly, we rehired them for a number of projects in the city, one of which was the refurbishment and expansion of Nelson Outdoor Pool. So it was great for me to see, okay, we've put this aside. There's been a full circle back to where things really should have been, that you are good people, and that's the story of the Pier in 20 sentences or less.
That's a great story. I had no idea. And like,
the residents of Burlington still know that story, but yes, it is kind of ironic, as I said, that my name is on that plaque out there. But we did finish it ultimately as a council.
That lonely 6-1 vote. That one vote became mayor. So look at that. So
look at that. Yes, look at that. Always stick to your principles.
Exactly.
Always, because it was a long, lonely road for a while. Those 8 years, being outvoted 6-1, but ultimately the community was paying attention and said, you know what, her votes are more like what I think the direction of the city should be. And so it's far from being a detriment. It was actually seen as a sign of somebody who stuck to their principles and actually had the pulse of the community, and that was borne out in the election.
I'm glad
I don't have many 6-1 votes, actually, and in fact, I'm going to jinx it now. I've not lost any vote I've put on the floor. So
nice. Did you just knock on wood?
I knocked on my table. Yeah.
Okay. I do that all the time too. So.
Is that gonna lie? Well, now I just got my dog going.
I don't know where I was going with this story about Burlington, but this is way better than the actual.
So you were eating and walking around the pier, and reading plaques, maybe.
So I had one viewer question. Viewer questions are always kind of intertwined with the questions I ask you. But one viewer question, and I don't even know how did the 35-story waterfront hotel tower get approved? Did it get approved?
It is not approved. It is not approved. So I am so grateful for that question. It is not approved at all. We don't even have an application for it. What we do have is a community meeting tonight, virtual, for the public to share their views with the applicant I encourage as many people, and if you're out there watching right now, please join the meeting. And if you don't know how, you can email me at mayor@burlington.ca. We'll make sure you get the coordinates. I will post them on my social feeds as well. This is what we call a pre-application community meeting. The entire purpose is to hear from the community before any applications are made, so that the applicant, should they be persuaded, and I hope they are, by what they hear, they can modify their application before they submit it. Saves them time and money. So we do it, this is a process that nobody else follows. It gives the community a voice before anything happens. And so that's what's happening tonight. There are no approvals. And even when, well, I encourage people to read more than the headlines or the assumptions of their friends on Facebook. Go to the source. You can go to my webpage and you can find the Zoom coordinates there. If you search up the Lakeshore, I think it's 2020 Lakeshore, you will find all of the facts there, including that no decisions have been made, no applications have been received. Also that we are required by law to process any application that comes in. So whether or not we like it or think it's worthwhile, there is a legal obligation on the part of our planning staff and the part of council to have a fair process. We can get appealed and it won't go well for us if we don't, if we're not seen to be giving a fair process. And of course, that's just good business. It's just being fair is the right thing to do. So we, and they pay for this service. They pay significantly for this service. So we have to honor that. So once an application comes in, whatever it is, our planning staff go through a detailed objective review and make their best recommendation to council. Council then gets to make a decision. And it can be one of the following: reject the application, approve the application, or approve the application with conditions. None of which has happened. All of which happens in public, and at every step in that process, the community has an opportunity to come forward and be heard and to shape the outcome.
Did I lose you? I think we're having some technical difficulties with the mayor of Burlington, Marianne Meed Ward. Her phone might have died because I've been on with it for the last 33 minutes. So let's see, she's still, no, she's out. All right, we're good. Let's see if she's still there. Oh. Sorry. I think I was on with you for 33 minutes, so.
No, my iPad ran out of juice. It's that time of day. It's fully charged at the beginning of the day, but I'm such a data hog that it runs out. So okay. My apologies. I'm on my phone now.
Okay.
But yes, I was just in full discussion there about the process. So all of that to say that on this application and many others, so we just dealt with 3 yesterday. Again, no decisions that were made. Another one that was downtown on Brant Street. Nothing has been approved.
Okay.
Nothing has been approved. And on this particular one related to the waterfront, nothing has even been submitted. And even after we have tonight's meeting, we don't know when they'll submit or if they'll submit an application. They're under no obligation. So have your voice heard, shape the application or potential application, and let us know as decision makers and our planning staff what your thoughts are. That is the best way to get involved in making a difference and being part of shaping, in this case, what happens in the downtown and the waterfront. So we're at stage 1, step 1 of this process.
So can I cut this clip and just say the Burlington Waterfront Hotel has not been approved?
Yes, please.
Okay.
The application, we haven't even received an application.
Okay.
The proposal for high rises on the waterfront hotel site has not only not been approved, we don't even have an application.
Okay.
This is just a preliminary community meeting to seek feedback.
All right. Okay. Is there anything else you want to bring up? Is there anything huge? We've been on for 35 minutes. I know you're busy.
Oh, I'm sure there's 100 things I'm forgetting right now, but I think we've covered a good amount. So
right.
We'll talk maybe next week about some of I think that whole development piece, there's a lot of proposed development in the hopper, and I think it would be really helpful for us to kind of go through it and tell people what stage it's at, because I think as soon as people see an invitation to a meeting to discuss a proposal, they assume that it's been approved already, it's a done deal and so forth, and it simply isn't the case. So a little bit more clarity on some of that, and we're trying in our in our communications to make that very clear. But clearly, since you got the question, we have more.
We got it twice.
More communicating to do.
Yeah. So why don't we next week? We'll just do a pure development show. So.
Oh, grief.
All right. All right.
For that.
Awesome. I'll catch you next week. We're at the same normal time next week at 4 p.m. I believe. So.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Khaled.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.